The film Miss Evers Boys tells one nurse's experience while conducting the infamous and pivotal Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis on a Negro male, or just the Tuskegee experiment. At the 54-minute, 21-second timestamp, Dr. Brodus and Nurse Eunice made the controversial decision to compromise their ethics and perform the experiment. The purpose of the study was to compare the disease course of untreated syphilis in black men when compared with that of white men. The hypothesis was that there was a difference. The null hypothesis declared no difference between the two groups. This point comes full circle by the film's end. Much more important, the study violated nearly every ethical principle of nursing and the medical Hippocratic Oath. Let's examine the ethics that were violated. 1. Autonomy. At no point did the Tuskegee men have the opportunity to give informed consent. The doctor and Eunice had conspired to deceive the subjects. The men consented to a fabricated set of circumstances. The research rationale was that by performing the experiment without treatment for the subjects, the funding for the true program with treatment would be reinstated in approximately 6 to 12 months. 2. Non-maleficence. Patient harm was not avoided in this study, but intentionally inflicted by allowing syphilis to fester in these men who were falsely led to believe their syphilis was being treated. 3. Justice. Never was justice extended to the subjects by conspiring to deceive them. For example, at timestamp 1 hour and 3 minutes, disguising spinal taps under the nickname backshots was intended to trick the men into a painful and invasive procedure that was quite painful from the scene that was shown. 4. Advocacy. Paradoxically, the team failed to advocate for the promotion of healthcare equity, for eliminating disparities, or for human rights of the men, although they had convinced themselves that they had. 5. Compassion and respect. Compassion was abundant from Nurse Eunice, but not respect. Any claims of respect were nullified by the team's dishonesty. 6. The last one, beneficence, was never afforded to the subjects. Instead, it was an empty promise of cleaning their bad blood and the intentional deception that was offered to the patients. At timestamp 1 hour and 27 minutes, Miss Evers located an absentee from the program. The syphilis had begun to obviously erode his central nervous system in the scene. The nurse told him, "You need to come in for your treatment, you and your friends." Again, the nurse rejects the patient's autonomy for the intangible idea that the deceptive program was for the greater good of the Black community of Alabama. At timestamp 1 hour and 35 minutes, Eunice makes a good faith effort to provide informed consent to Hodman, a subject whose neurological faculties were severely affected by syphilis. However, in his state, his reasoning didn't allow for informed consent, as evidenced by the turpentine that he was about to consume to cure the syphilis. At the 1 hour 39-minute mark, the doctor violates the justice principle when he told Eunice he would overlook her theft of penicillin. Fueled by her guilt and knowledge that penicillin cured syphilis, Eunice stole the medication and gave it to Hodson before he ultimately drank turpentine, which killed him. Too little, too late. I enjoyed this film for the story it told. I had no compassion for Nurse Eunice. Her blatant sacrifice of her fellow Black Alabamans and her ethics showed another story of Black people betraying their best interests under the pressures of a racist political system. I truly believe that no one was charged or punished for the Tuskegee experiments because the government intentionally set out to deceive and sacrifice the Tuskegee patients because they were viewed as less valuable and they were expendable human subjects. By today's standards, Nurse Eunice would have lost her license, and rightly so.